So here we are again, another versus video. Am I going to cave in and say neither one is better than the other? Not this time. And since one series covers only the Kantos region, we're only going to compare it to the first season of the other show. It only seems fair since one has 19 seasons. There! I corrected it! And the other only has 4 episodes. Well, Shannon, are you ready?
You bet I am! Here is Pokemon Season 1 versus Pokemon Origins.
When you get right down to it, both series have the same plot. A young boy sets out on a long journey to become a Pokemon master. In order to do that and help make Professor Oak's dream come true, you'll have to collect and train numerous Pokemon all over Kantos, while having to put up with his annoying rival.
In Season 1, the rivalry was between Ash Ketchum and Gary freaking Oak! In Origins, the rivalry was between Red and Green, Blue... Yeah, Origins was based on the first 2 games, which in Japan was Red and Green, and in America was Red and Blue. Hence the confusion we experienced while scripting this video.
So, with similar plots and scenarios, you think we bail out and say neither is better than the other. Unlike Hellsing, where it feels you need to watch one in order to catch up with the other, Season 1 and Origins approach their scenarios in different ways that can be both enjoyed separately. So, which one is better? Let's go over the pros and cons of each series before we decide. The first season of Pokemon aired on April 1st, 1997 in Japan, which starred our Pokemon Master in Training, Satoshi, also known as Ash Ketchum. Ash travels from town to town, collecting Pokemon and facing off against the most famous rival in anime history, Gary frickin' Oak. I know his middle name is not frickin', but it should be. Along his journey, he is joined by 2 other Pokemon gym leaders, Brock and Misty, as they help Ash through his journey while fulfilling their own dreams. More on that later. The gang also had to protect their Pokemon from the evil clutches of Team Rocket. Unlike the game in Origins, however, where they faced numerous members of Team Rocket, our heroes would only bump into the one and only Jessie and James, with their talking Meowth. More on them later. For a product of the late 90s, you're expected to follow a long series full of formulas and tropes here and there. Pokemon Season 1 was no exception, but that doesn't mean it wasn't good. The first season was able to stretch out Ash's journey with 82 episodes, so a simple journey to collect Pokemon was bound to hit filler central. For example, the St. Anne arc started with the gang meeting other trainers only for the ship to turn upside down, forcing our heroes to work with Jessie and James in order to survive. This was all followed by the gang being thrown into the sky by a gang of Gyarados, and they land on an island filled with giant Pokemon. Fillers they may be, but there were some memorable episodes, such as Caterpie's evolution, the Charmander episode, and Bye Bye Butterfree. Man, no wonder people cling on to these episodes. Once they got you by the feels, there's no turning back.
Season 1's plot is of course memorable to many. It was the first time we were exposed to a world of adventure that any boy or girl could achieve as long as they worked hard enough. While in many ways it did not follow the games, this Kanto journey was able to fill us with stories along the way that honestly Origins nor the games could replicate. One way to look at it is that because Season 1 was a journey not controlled by a player, but rather through a traditional protagonist viewpoint, the dynamics in perspective changed. Most people don't only remember Season 1 for the actual battles, but rather the stories in between, like Pikachu's determination to win against Surge's gym without evolving. It was character development from a third person's perspective, something that a first-person homage like Origins just couldn't fill in 4 episodes. To some, the instrumental soundtracks are loving memories to a lot of people, and many of these anime-exclusive tracks bring back those innocent Saturday mornings. And this is not even talking about how awesome 4Kids, of all people, made such great music. At least for the Western audiences, the dub's opening theme and 4Kids to Be a Master album is ingrained in the brains of many older Pokemon fans. Heck, what makes it more amazing is how well aged the soundtrack really is. Sure, some of the vocal tracks have that 90s flair to it, but for the most part, I think younger fans now would still like it. Another thing to note here is that the original Ash, voice actor Veronica Taylor, helped set the anime trainer through many of the early series, solidifying who he was and made him such a staple he is now in the West. With Ash, I do like his personality, that childlike wonder and sense of eagerness to explore the world, the desire to be the best even when all the chips are down. It may not look it, but love or hate him, Ash is an icon to Pokemon to many fans, and it's understandable why they refuse to age him, even if it is frustrating. Just like any other older fan, we do get tired of seeing the same thing every day. But to a younger, newer fan, he's just the right type of kid to give that show its image, losses and all. It makes them want to play the games and do better than Ash, hence leading to more Pokemon trainers and fans worldwide.
Overall, this series knew how to make good episodes and knew how to stretch out the plot. But there are some things I have to ask now. I know this is an old show that had to follow a formula, but this was the start of an annoying pattern that they're still using 18 seasons later. Why does Ash need to travel with friends? You can say it's better to travel with friends, but after Misty and Brock had their gym episodes, there really wasn't a point to having them anymore. Think about it. Brock started off as a tough trainer who was only thinking of his siblings and the father that abandoned them. Once he resolved his issues with his father, he decides to become a Pokemon breeder. So why does he need to follow Ash? Misty follows Ash so she can get her bike back, to which she just gets her old one repaired later on in the series. She does have more of a reason to follow Ash for that, but it felt like it was her only purpose, just to remind Ash every now and then that he owes her a bike. I personally think Brock and Misty were just there to help stretch out the fillers, like when Misty wanted to win her own sets of dolls, and when Brock almost died from falling in love with a ghost girl. So we have here a "where's my bike" girl and a womanizer stretching out the plot before the anime decides to get rid of them, only to replace them with other pointless characters.
Yeah, I know Season 1 is geared towards children, but that's especially no excuse to how many times Ash recklessly gets into dangerous situations. Yes, he's an icon, but sometimes I question the logic that goes through his head in taking action. Another thing is that when looking only at Season 1, there was not much in the beginning that signified Ash or Gary being rivals. Just an impression of some snobby successful rich kid picking on his neighbor. And in all honesty, Gary freaking Oak annoyed and confused me. The show took so much time in Season 1 flaunting how many girls he had in his car, which by the way I need to call the police on that, or what he has done, that there's barely any interaction that solidifies the two of them as rivals trying to better themselves, let alone each other. So it really felt like the comedy was too much in the way.
As for the villains, well, Jessie and James are good comic relief, but they keep playing the same one note they know in every episode they're in. They want Ash's Pokemon, they fail to get them, and they're sent flying off into the sky.
Team Rocket's blasting off again!
But of course they're working for a higher colony, which is Team Rocket, led by the mysterious businessman Giovanni. What does the show provide us about him? Nothing. He just sits around, petting his Persian, yelling at Team Rocket for their failures. That's it. There is nothing more to this man. All we know is he wants to collect strong Pokemon for his own reasons, and he just happens to be the Viridian City gym leader. They didn't even stretch out that plot twist. He just defeats Gary freaking Oak, returns to his lab to check up on something, and lets Jessie and James take care of Ash as temporary gym leaders. Why? Giovanni is supposed to be the big threat, but we're constantly being pushed to watch Jessie and James? Just because it's what the kids want or something? Yes, they're funny, but I wanted a real villain for our heroes to face. It's supposed to be Giovanni, as he is stealing most of the Pokemon in Kantos, and you have to face him in real battle in order to get the Earth Badge. I know this is supposed to be more about the journey and not a boring tale of good versus evil, but Team Rocket was supposed to be a huge threat to our main hero. So yeah, the first season of Pokemon really let us down when it comes to the villains. Jessie and James may be funny to watch, but there's really nothing more to say about Team Rocket as a whole.
The main difference between Season 1 and Origins regarding Giovanni is the level of seriousness in his character. Now this is no surprise since Season 1 was trying to appeal to a younger audience on TV, so giving him comedic scenes via Team Rocket's dreams were bound to happen. With that being said though, and no bash to Jesse and James, but their Giovanni fantasies makes me forget at times that this is an organization powerhouse of evil Pokemon poachers. In the animation department, while both have their signature look thanks to Ohm Animation, Season 1's was made in the 90s, so it's easy to understand how Ohm's old animation style wouldn't stand the test of time. And let's not forget Season 1's infamous cultural exchange changes to their script, which at the time was okay, but looking at it now, I simply go,
"These donuts are great! Jelly-filled are my favorite! Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut!"
That's not a donut. You know that's not a donut. Those are carbs, Brock! Carbs!
Overall, Pokemon Season 1 gave us some memorable episodes that packed a lot of feels, but the characters are mostly flat while following the one formula they were meant to follow. Pokemon Origins was released in Japan October 2nd, 2013. The 4-episode OVA was supposed to give us the real version of the Kanto's journey, while also being a giant marketing tool for the next exciting feature for the next game, Mega Evolution. An exciting new addition added to Pokemon X and Y was going to be shown in Pokemon Origins, even though this was never discovered all the way back then. The series stars our Pokemon Master in Training, Red, and his rival, Green, Blue, and Aquamarine. Before the boys head out to catch Pokemon, Professor Oak asks them to fulfill his lifelong dream of completing his Pokédex, which requires them to catch all 149 Pokemon. I can only imagine the conversation now. "I would like you to go out there and complete my Pokédex, which requires you to collect all of the Pokemon in the world. How many are we talking about here?" 721. 722 if you count Magearna. There, I mentioned Magearna. You happy now? Anyways, this show has a slight disadvantage, with it only having 4 episodes, and yet it seemed to convey a good story with better characters compared to Season 1. To me, Ash and Red are pretty similar in behavior. Both start off naive at the very beginning of their journey, but I always felt a side of arrogance in Ash's character compared to Red, especially when Ash faced other trainers or jumped in danger just to save the day. Red really didn't want to fight other trainers since he only wanted to fill the Pokédex, but he learned that he couldn't do it without forming a relationship with his Pokémon, which requires training. It's hard to compare the two since they're almost similar, but I guess I find myself really liking Red compared to Ash. Plus, here's one thing to consider. When Ash trained his Charmander to evolve into a Charizard, he turned from a loving Pokémon who appreciated Ash for rescuing him into a giant dick. So much for being grateful there, you orange dragon jerk. Now with Red training Charizard... it speaks for itself. Seriously, why was Charizard such an asshole to Ash?
Between Ash and Red, well, okay, it's no-brainer to see who the better trainer is. A sack of potatoes could easily see the overwhelming skill difference. But the reason why Red for me was a better character than Ash is actually not because he was a Pokemon catching machine. The impressive thing about Origins is being able to put a voice to one of pop culture's most iconic silent protagonists and still make the character portrayed well without any large riots, and that's no easy feat. Red in 4 episodes was able to grow on his journey organically on screen than it would 20 episodes for Ash to get any kind of decent character development.
Oh, hi Brock! You got something to teach the main character? Awesome! Okay, bye. Thank you, Origins! Thank you for proving my point. Brock is a gym leader who saw something in Red when he lost his first fight to Blue-Green.
Why don't you just pick a color?
Just covering the comic complaints.
Ah.
Brock decides to teach Red a lesson about forming a relationship with your Pokemon by battling, and then Red continues his journey. That's it! That's all we needed from Brock to begin with. Yes, he saw something in Red as the other Brock saw something in Ash, but it's not like every single gym leader wanted to give up their day job and follow Ash everywhere. And again, that would have given Giovanni some character, I guess, and that would have been funny to watch. The point of Pokemon is the trainer's journey alone, collecting Pokemon while forming a relationship with them. So thankfully, Origins kept it to that point and not turned it into the adventures of Ash and friends. As for the rivalry, I'm just gonna call him Blue from this point.
But what if the fans complain that it's originally green? Whoa, girl, down!
Blue is a rival done right. Not that I'm saying Gary was bland or anything, far from it, but it felt like Gary was a one-note character only there to make Ash mad. He only found peace with Ash when the anime got bored with his one note, which didn't happen in the first season. With Origins, Red and Blue were polar opposites. Red being the kind-hearted pacifist who wants to do the right thing, and Blue working non-stop to be the very best in the world, while being a major butthole to Red and Professor Oak. Yeah, even your own grandfather thinks you're full of yourself.
It's clear that in both series, without good chemistry with the rival, the journey wouldn't feel as life-changing. In the case of Red and Green, or Blue if you're watching the dub, it was instant from the first episode how the two of them saw each other. Green also at first saw Red as being lower than himself. But it wasn't a trait that was highly capitalized on, but more subtle and quick to understand. Then through the course of the OVA, he not only saw Red as an equal, but as a person and friend who helps him and his Pokemon grow stronger. They welcome each other's battling growth, not taking it for granted like Gary did half the time. And Gary does eventually start to recognize Ash, but not until many episodes later. It felt pretentious rather than helpful.
Origins' villain is of course Team Rocket, led by Giovanni. With 4 episodes, they rushed a bit of information regarding Team Rocket, but I still got a lot more out of them compared to Season 1. The team is full of minor minions following orders from Giovanni, a businessman who wants to strengthen his business by hogging all the strong Pokemon for himself. Red is disgusted by his actions only to find out the big plot twist while collecting badges. Giovanni is the Viridian City gym leader, and Red has to face him in order to get the Earth badge. The battle that went down gave more depth to Giovanni's character than we had ever seen before. He's a greedy man who lost his way in life only to rediscover it while facing Red, who somehow is reminded of him at his age. It was rushed, but I still got a more well-developed character compared to Season 1. That's pretty sad when you think about it.
I have to admit, seeing Giovanni's thoughts fleshed out during his fight with Red really won me over because it wasn't quite clear with his time with Ash. Origins was animated by both Ulm and in conjunction with Production IG, which I think was the best studio for the job. Besides having a stable track record, I've always prided Production IG for being able to have attention to stylistic detail. What I mean is that where other companies shine in their unique art style like Kyoto Annie, Production IG are powerhouses at replicating, if not emulating, varying styles and to fit a specific work. I mean, look at both Kuroko no Basket and something like Usagi Drop. Unless you looked it up, it would be difficult to say right off the bat that they were animated by the same people. So their work on emulating not just Pokemon, but the feeling of the Red and Blue games was well received. It shows how this company did their homework on the franchise and melded well with Ulm's style. It's a great balance of old and new that helps further the nostalgia that this OVA was capitalizing on.
The only real problems I see are the episode pacing and the fact that it's mostly made to promote a product, which is Mega Evolution. I give it some slack since it had to work with 4 episodes alone, and the Mega Evolution fight was just awesome to watch. In order for them to portray the series with only 4 episodes, the writers had to pick out the major points from the game. That would be the start of the journey, facing Team Rocket, and facing off against your rival at the very end, along with finding all 149 Pokemon, which then turns into 150 when they hear about Mewtwo. Of all the extra episodes they decide to cover, however, they managed to find time for... oh no. Not this story. Oh god, here come the tears. I seriously need to revise my top 10 cry list because, damn it! This game feels! The feels got to me! Season 1 gave us a lot of sad episodes, but Origins really knew how to pull at your heartstrings with this one. Oh man, I cried at their reunion. That was just a tear-jerking episode. I will say this about the animation for Origins. Man, the Pokemon fights were brutal. I mean, I know things got intense in the first season, but I found myself cringing with how painful it all looked.
Despite being a great OVA, it does have a few nitpicks here and there. The obvious downside being that Origin's plot didn't have time to flesh out the world of Pokemon, but that's not Origin's fault since it was a 4-episode, again, OVA. But Origins, like many other shows that capitalize on nostalgia most of the time, has the #1 weakness of making safe choices. For example, the soundtrack and voice acting was by no means terrible. In fact, a lot of it was A-list material, but it's obvious why they are playing the safe card here. What I'm saying is that the nostalgia safety net doesn't leave room for too much innovation unless you're ready to face a horde of angry Pokemon veterans head on. Also, in both the sub and the dub, whenever I heard Red talk, all I heard was the ninja and or Pappenbrook possessing his body, and sometimes the Digidestin. Oh, the irony. No, seriously, every time it came on screen, my mind would either think of the following.
Finally, it's done!
Red, let's talk for a second. Now, I know you're about to go on your fantastic Pokemon adventure, but you have to take better care of yourself. I mean, in your past years, you were a vampire, you ran a gang, you owned a bar, you got stuck in 2 games, one in which you collected a harem at your young age. Granted, before that you did enroll in Mountain Melon High, and tried to be a Shovel Knight before it was cool, but Red, you're only 10. You shouldn't be surviving death games, nor teaching people the importance about dying before they are killed, nor training to be a Buddhist shrine priest while you're secretly the son of Satan, killing titans, or becoming a Catboy and an Italian Ripple user. Why are you everywhere I go, Bryce Pappenbrook? What I'm trying to say is that for a character who's always been silent, no fault to the voice actors, but putting one iconic voice on another iconic character just distracts me a bit.
Pokemon Season 1 gave us memorable episodes that we will still remember 19 years later, but had to be carried by some pretty flat characters. Origins had some pacing issues, but it was able to portray a stronger story with only 4 episodes. After much thought and consideration, the better anime in our opinion is... Pokemon Origins.
As a fellow lover of Pokemon, I will never forget the fun times I had watching Season 1. But now, thinking as both a reviewer and someone who grew up to see Pokemon age, I have to give Origins the credit that it's due. It's proved that it can be a fun experience without stemming to the webs of nostalgia. And more importantly, it condenses in its short time what makes Pokemon the phenomenon it is today. Something a veteran and a newbie could watch and equally enjoy the concise nature of the experience, which in my eyes is the true beauty of this OVA.
It may seem unfair to compare, since one is a sheer product of the 90s and the other is a short OVA, but we were thoroughly impressed with how Origins was able to retell this classic story of adventure and discovery. Yes, both show the great journey to collect Pokemon while watching both trainers grow, but there's a difference in development and character growth. There's only so much you can take of Gary's annoying brags while he's all talk and no show, Misty nagging non-stop about her stupid bike, and Brock constantly falling in love wherever he goes. They were funny the first time, but this was just the beginning of Pokemon's awkwardly repetitive structure. The same cannot be said for Origins and even for the Mega Evolution specials. Instead of following a formula with no organic growth, these amazing spin-offs tell great stories in the Pokemon world with great leads to carry us on the journey. To portray such an amazingly iconic journey with great characters and development, with only 4 episodes to work with, we say without a doubt, Pokemon Origins is better than Pokemon Season 1.
This, however, means you still can enjoy both. While we do feel that Origins is better, that doesn't make Season 1 bad. It's still a nice watch of memorable episodes that will keep you in the field of nostalgia. If you wish to watch one or both, Origins can be watched on Hulu in English, and the DVDs can be found at your local DVD stores for a good price. Pokemon Season 1, however, is a bit trickier, but there are DVD copies in some stores and online.
Both are fun to watch, so be sure to check them out and tell us which ones you like the most. This has been Robin and Shannon. Stay tuned to Anime America. Want to support the production? Check out our brand new store on Store Envy. For a small price, you can have a one-of-a-kind poster made by yours truly. If you can only give a small amount to help us out, check out our Patreon page. Any amount you wish to give us goes towards our production needs, so anything you can give us helps us a lot. To keep up with the latest in Anime America stuff, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even Tumblr. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe to Anime America for more awesome reviews and top 10 lists. If you're interested in anything in pop culture, be sure to subscribe to Pop Spectrum. Thank you all for watching, and stay tuned to Anime America.